Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to your Lunch Break Live. My name's Ivana Harinque if you're new here, and if you're not, thank you for coming back. Today is April the 25th. It is Monday, and it is also NFL Draft Week. Today, I am joined by one of our sports reporters, Mark Inabinett, and Mark is here today to talk a little bit about where some of our players here from Alabama, meeting both the University of Alabama, Auburn University, and more, are headed, or at least projected to head, in this year's 2022 NFL draft. Now, again, that draft starts on Thursday night with that first round. And Mark, I know you've been saying you've been doing a lot of these mock drafts and making a lot of different projections, but this is going to be kind of a crazy year. I know you and I were talking before we got started that there is not a just for sure first pick. It's still a little bit up in the air who the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to pick. So give me a little bit of your thoughts. And do you think it'll be somebody from Alabama?
Well, with the number one pick a couple of months ago, if you'd asked that, I said, yeah, they're going to pick Neal, the tackle from Alabama. But then they franchise tagged Cam Robinson, another tackle from Alabama, and that gave rise to the idea that, well, Jaguars certainly have a lot of holes to fill since they're picking number one for the second year in a row, that they were not going to pick an offensive tackle, that they would address one of their other needs at number one. And you saw that in the line that Vegas put out, that Hutchinson, the defensive end from Michigan, a pass rusher, has been the betting favorite the whole process for the last couple of months. Now, the last week or so, Georgia's defensive lineman Travon Walker has closed those odds up. They've dropped the odds on him. You're not going to make as much money betting on him to be number one this week as you were last week, if that's what you do. And he is number one because of his potential. They feel like the Jaguars like him a lot. But on Friday, the Jaguars had a press conference. General Manager Trent Baalke said they had it down to 4 people. You have to take that with a grain of salt. You don't know what message he's trying to send to everybody else. He might be saying, please come take this pick from us for a whole bunch of other picks. But and then people immediately put Neal in as one of those potential 4 players. So maybe he could be, but he's not going to go too far down the line.
Well, and let's talk about that. Even if Evan Neal is not chosen number one for the Jaguars, even if they decide that they don't want to invest in another tackle and they want to get something else on their team, again, like you said, they do have a lot of holes to fill. They could go with pretty much any position at this point, and it would be okay. So where does that leave Evan Neal then? Should we feel real sorry for him, or is he still going to go pretty quickly?
No, he's going to go pretty quickly. I mean, when you look at the draft, you have the Texans at number 3. You have the Jets at number 4 and the Giants at number 5, Carolina at number 6, and then the Giants come back around again at number 8. All of those teams would be happy to have him in their offensive line. They all need an offensive tackle, and it's just a matter of how they have evaluated the offensive tackles this year. There seems to be a tier of 3 who are probably not going to get out of the top 10 when we finish picking, with Charles Cross from Mississippi State and the big fella from North Carolina State. They're all considered, plug and play. They're going to be in the line and go and do a good job for you for a decade. So Evan Neal's not going to – he's going to hear his name called out very quickly on Thursday night.
Now let's go to another University of Alabama favorite for this draft, and that is Jameson Williams, wide receiver there. Tell me what the expectation is there.
Well, he's not going to last very long either, even though he's coming off a major knee injury. He's just been too productive and is too fast for NFL teams to let him go. If he's not the first wide receiver pick, then he might not be. He is not going to probably go too far. He's certainly not going to get past, let me see, I think the Eagles are picking 15th. That's their first round pick. And, can the Eagles make it 3 years in a row with a wide receiver pick in the first round? Yes, they can. And they just got Smith from Alabama last year. How about another guy from Alabama? That worked out pretty well. But in my mock draft last week, I had him going to Washington with the 11th pick.
And 11 again, still not too bad. They're just one out of top 10. So seems like Alabama will hold up pretty well here in this draft. There's also Christian Harris. Tell us a little bit about him.
Well, the word is that he's really been rising on people's draft boards. Maybe sneaking to the first round. I don't know. As a linebacker, that might be kind of difficult. I think more probably a second round pick for him. But certainly Alabama's not going to have the bonanza that they had last year in the first round when they had 6 guys picked. They tied Miami's record from 2003. But they're going to have those 2 guys for sure picked in the first round, which is going to make it 14 years in a row that Alabama has had a first round pick, which will tie the all-time record that Miami set from I think it's 95 to 2003. 2008, 95, 2008. That'd be 14 years. They're going to have those 2 guys picked. That'll be 14 years in a row with a first round pick. And of course, Alabama's going to have 9 or 10 guys get drafted before Saturday night comes. So you're still going to have a lot of guys from Alabama going into the draft.
It's almost become kind of a given, right? For those of us who at least have been following Alabama football, even for the last 15 years, it just seems like, of course, there will be several Alabama guys that go off in the first round. Maybe some of us take that for granted, but it would almost feel foreign to not have an Alabama player go in that first round.
Well, it would be now. I mean, Coach Saban has really pumped him into the draft. He's if you look at first round draft picks from that SEC coaches have produced, he has more than twice as many as any other coach. Everybody, that includes everybody, Steve Spurrier, Coach Bryant, any of those people. He has twice as many first round picks, if you can include the people from LSU too, because that's also the SEC. And he's coming up to, about to go 3 times more than anybody else. So it's been quite a phenomenon.
We've been talking about Alabama. Let's move on to Auburn and to this first Brian Harsin team coming into this draft. So Auburn, there is not quite as many players expected to go in this draft. Tell us a little bit about Auburn, about Roger McCreary. I know is one of those names that has been floated, and who else we can expect there.
Well, it's not going to be it doesn't seem to be a deep draft for Auburn this year. McCreary is a possible first rounder. First 2 mock drafts I did, I had him going to Buffalo because they just lost Levi Wallace from Alabama in free agency, and they could really use another really good cornerback, and certainly he would be one. But I'm not sure if he'll go in the first round. It's maybe if he doesn't go in the first, he'll be early in the second. After that, though, the guy you can count on to be drafted from Auburn is Smoke Monday, the safety, and then McClain, the linebacker, might be the only other draft pick that they get this year. Actually picked into 7 rounds.
When do you expect Smoke?
And of course, let me just say that you can count Malik Willis if you want to count Malik Willis as a kind of grandfather him in as an Auburn guy because he played for Auburn for 2 years before going to Liberty. Then you're looking at, you might have another first rounder from Auburn because he could certainly go in the first round. There's just no telling with the quarterbacks this year. It's a real question mark.
Look, we'll take them. We'll claim anybody that can give us a little bit of pride there. We will take Malik Willis there. So tell us, you and I were talking a minute ago. It's interesting draft for several reasons. One, because we don't know who that first round or that first pick is going to be. But secondly, because the quarterbacks are not calling the shots this go around. And that is something that is a little bit different than what we've seen the last couple of years. I mean, you're talking about some of these first picks being tackles.
Right. Last year, the first, you went the first 2 picks, you knew which quarterbacks they were going to be, and then it was just which quarterback was going to be picked third by the 49ers. And it was not Mac Jones, as we know. But this year, it's, you have teams, of course, that need quarterbacks. And it's just the quarterbacks that we're talking about here. Everybody has got they can, but there's a but attached to them. It's not like, he's going to go in and play right away like Trevor Lawrence did when Jacksonville took him number 1 last year. So it's a matter of how badly do they want him? Do they feel like, I can just wait and he'll fall to me? like the Steelers might do, picking down in the 20s? Or do they feel like I need to go up, like Seattle might, even though they're picking ninth, to say, I want to make sure that, yes, there are question marks about all these quarterbacks, so I want to get the one that I want. I don't want to be having sitting here and getting the number 3 guy and saying, oh, he's the one I wanted all the time. Like, of course you did. So that's we say the quarterbacks are not controlling the draft, but they're going to have a big, big say in the way that the draft plays out, especially in the first round. And especially if you look at a team like Detroit, who could pick a quarterback, has the 32nd pick. Well, if you get drafted in the first round, a team can control you for 5 years instead of 4. So maybe a team will want to trade up into that last pick in the first round, sort of like the Ravens did when they traded up to get Lamar Jackson. And if it pans out, well, you got the guy for 5 years now. And if you don't, well, 4 years, you can get rid of him. But so you're going to have a lot. It looks like there's going to be a lot of action around the quarterbacks. And I've suggested this in the mock draft, that you don't have to take a quarterback this year that's going to be, yeah, maybe they might be great. And maybe, and of course, every player's like that. But some players come with more question marks than others. You can wait till next year, and if you can pick first, you will have Bryce Young from Alabama, and he will not have question marks, and he will be your starter day one, and you'll be fine. All you got to do is hold on and lose bad for one more year. And some of these teams, that should not be a problem, especially the ones that need a quarterback, like the Panthers. Can you just lose for one more year, and then, in 2011, you got a quarterback out of the state of Alabama with Cam Newton. You quit being bad. You went to the Super Bowl. Well, you can do it again next year with Bryce Young if you just hold on for one more year of crumminess.
So you think the kind of theme of this draft might be the long haul, not what's good for us in the short game here, but for the long haul, what is going to benefit our team and our organization for years to come?
Well, that's always the balancing act that they have to do, especially when the salary cap, things like you have to say, how can we win this year and be ready to win next year, even though we know we're going to lose players? How are we going to be positioned in the draft and free agency and things like that? This draft, a lot of people, when you hear them talk about it, they don't think there are these superstar, I want Trevor Lawrence kind of players that are going to come in and make a huge difference all by themselves, or major difference mainly because of their presence. But they feel like there's a lot of good players to be gotten all along the way at a lot of positions, especially offensive line for the first time in a long time, that they can, all through the draft, that they can get a good core for a team, the kind of building blocks that you need to win. So there is a lot of long haul in this thing because, you get a good offensive lineman and you might be able to keep him for 10 years. And that's something you won't have to worry about for a decade. If you have a good guard or a good center or a good offensive tackle, if you can, pay him and keep him around.
We've talked a lot about first round, but by the end of this thing, I know you said Saturday or Sunday night. I can't remember which day the draft ends, but over the weekend, at the end of this, how many players do you think will have been drafted, not just first round, but throughout the whole shebang with some type of Alabama tie?
Well, it's funny because the last 4 years, 21 players have been drafted from Alabama high schools and colleges every year. And that's just a weird coincidence to have 21 every year for 4 years. And you know what? We could have 21 again this year. But I think it might be a little bit more than that. We have probably 10 to 15 high school players this year who, not all of them, very few of them went to Alabama or Auburn. Of course, McCrary did. He's from Williamson. That could be drafted. And so we're going to have a nice showing again this year for Alabama. We're always one of the top states in the nation in per capita draft picks. We're right up there. People think of California or Texas or Florida. That's where the football players are. But Alabama is right up there with them in per capita number of high school players. It's been down a little bit for a couple of years, but this year is going to be a nice showing for players who came out of Alabama high schools. Maybe not, not top of the line first round. I mean, McCreary might be the only first rounder, but by the time we get to pick number 262, people are going to know that we play high school football in Alabama.
And that is what I know. That's what at least one of our goals here is to, to get people into the Alabama high school sports realm. I know you've covered that for a while, Mark, and you know a lot of these names that people maybe are just now catching on to. So, Mark, thank you for all these projections. I know that last year you gave us the Najee Harris prediction on going to the Steelers, and obviously that one we got out. Doesn't sound like you're quite as sure this year. I don't know that I'm going to take it to Vegas, but I appreciate it. Mark, I appreciate all your thoughts here.
All right, sure thing. Everybody, we've had a lot of draft stuff on the site, AL.com, and going to have a lot more.
Absolutely. You can find all of that information on AL.com/sports and also AL.com/NFL. We will have those links here for you in the comments, so you can click on those and follow them as well. Mark, thanks so much. I know you're going to have a busy week. Everybody watching, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.